want to do a quick little update for you on Hurricane, or what will be Hurricane Laura. Let's get some of the logistics out of the way first. Let's take a look at what the National Hurricane Center is. 10 a.m. Laura is now officially a hurricane. Wind 75 miles per hour, west-northwest at 16 miles per hour. This is the 10 a.m. position of Laura. You can see tropical storm force winds extending out, and then you have the small little hurricane winds. So Hurricane Laura. Glad to be able to be one of the first to put that out there. Hurricane warnings have now been put up for just east of Houston, all the way over to central Louisiana. This is the white area right here is the cone of uncertainty. Remember, the cone of uncertainty in that white area, it's not where the entire hurricane is. That's just where the eye of the hurricane can be. So if it takes a more westerly route, it'd be going in Houston. If it took a more easterly route, it would be going in. The eye of the hurricane would be going in central Louisiana. Right now, the National Hurricane Center has this going in somewhere around, I'm sad to say it, Beaumont, Port Arthur area, Orange, Texas area is where it has. And it has it going in as a major hurricane, which that would be a Category 3 going in. So, shades of Ike, Southeast Texas. I hate to say it. Man, lived in Beaumont for 5 years, moved in about a month and a half. Moved to Beaumont about a month and a half after Ike hit and got to see the destruction that Ike caused. And sad to say, this is shades of Ike, okay? So Beaumont, Port Arthur, Orange, Texas, the Texas-Louisiana coast. Right now, you are ground zero in the National Hurricane Center's forecast. Let me get some coffee. Now, Houston, you cannot let your guard down. Remember, the cone of uncertainty would be where the eye of the hurricane could go. Houston is in the cone of uncertainty. Let me say it again. Let me say it right. The cone of uncertainty. Still drinking my coffee this morning. I'm going to show you why Houston is still in the cone of uncertainty and why I think this can shift a little bit left. In fact, shift west. In fact, I do believe this is a little bit west from its 7 a.m. position from earlier runs. So, and notice they have this as a hurricane still up towards Jasper, Texas. So this is not just a hit the coastline and fizzle away down to a tropical storm. We're still saying, this is still saying tropical storm up through just north of Shreveport. So that would be the Arklatex. It's still tropical storm force. Yes, that is how strong the National Hurricane Center is showing this to be. Let's look at the updated rainfall. This rainfall right here, this the east side of the hurricane. So this side of the hurricane, we call the dirty side of the hurricane. This side of the hurricane is where the most wind and rain fall. This shows somewhere between 6 and 10 inches of rain. And that would be from basically Beaumont, Port Arthur, all the way over, that would be Westlake, Lake Charles, Lafayette to south. And then, once again, up here around Shreveport, another 6 to 10 inches. East Texas, 4 to 6 inches. And then, once again, if this shifts to the west, this shifts to the west. Okay, so if the track of Laura shifts to the west, so will everything else. Let's look at the arrival times, okay? This is when you can start feeling the effects. So, on land, and this is not full effects, but you'll start seeing squall lines. You'll start seeing the wind pick up. So Wednesday, 8 a.m., South Louisiana. And then sometime Wednesday during the day is when we can really start seeing the effects on the Texas-Louisiana coastline. coastline. So there's your update. Let's look and let me show you why Houston is not out of the picture yet. Here's ensemble models. Here's where a lot of the ensembles, this is where the National Hurricane Center's track is. Look at all these ensembles that are still west. So basically what ensembles are, they're weather models, they're numerical models, supercomputers basically, programs, that take in all the information, atmospheric information they can possibly take in, and then they spit out track and intensity. This over here scares me. We could still see a shift west. That's why Houston is not out of the woods. Let's go look. This would be the global models. So let's go look at, let's see if we can find them here. This is global plus hurricane models. As you can tell, this is why the National Hurricane Center has this going in pretty much Beaumont, Port Arthur area, with still outliers out to Houston and someone past Houston. I cannot say it enough. Houston, you're not out of the woods. Let's look at GFS. So this is the American model, American numerical model. The GFS, which has been over here in central Louisiana for days and days and days and days. Look at this. It actually has it going in at Houston. Houston, you are not out of the woods. Do not let your guard down. And some even further west. Got to keep, Houston, you got to keep your wits about you. Do not let your guard down whatsoever. This is the GEFS parallel. So this is a subset of GFS. And once again, this has the main track going in Beaumont, Port Arthur. You still have a lot of ensemble members to the west. Houston, do not let your guard down. Let's go look at intensity right quick. Let's look at the main block of intensity. These are different models. The main block carries this up to Category 2, Category 3, and you now have 3 members, upper Category 3, 2, and Category 4. But your main members have it Category 2, Category 3. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, and I'm not a hype person. I am not a person that calls for major hurricane landings 10 days out. That's not who I am. I'm just telling you the severity of the situation. There's nothing whatsoever in the Gulf of Mexico to keep this from intensifying. Laura is going to intensify. Laura is going to be a major hurricane. Just there's nothing. There's really no shear, so there's no upper level winds that can tear the storm apart. The Gulf of Mexico waters are upper 80s, and that upper 80s water is just like bath water. It's hot water, and that's how hurricanes get their energy. And not only is it, not just the top of the water is 80 degrees, we're talking up to 300 meters down. Could be upper 80s. So even if a hurricane gets over a spot and churns up the waters, it's still got a lot of hot water to churn up, even from the depths, of the ocean. So just short way of saying it is this: there is nothing to inhibit this hurricane from becoming stronger and stronger and stronger. Well, let's put it this way: the only thing that can inhibit it is time. So, and what I mean by time is it's got about 48 to 54 hours before it hits land. That's the only thing that will stop the growth and intensity with this hurricane. So I'm putting that out there right now. In fact, 2 days ago, I rang the bell on my Facebook page, and I put down there that this is, in my opinion, was going to be a major hurricane. And I put Houston, Beaumont, Port Arthur, Cameron, Louisiana, ringing the bell, putting them on notice 2 days ago. It's just, That's what I was seeing. The models were, some of the major models were trending westward, and here we go. It's trending westward still. Let's look at peak storm surge. This is if the storm goes in right here. Okay, so if it goes in Port Arthur, Beaumont area, 2 to 4 feet down towards Freeport, 3 to 5 feet. You're talking about in the Houston Channel, 6 to 9 foot along Boulevard Peninsula, Galveston, right down here. And then you got 9 to 13 feet coming in Rim State Park, Intercoastal City, 7 to 11 feet. Just west of Morgan City, you're talking about 4 to 6 feet. Same way here about the mouth of Mississippi, extending all the way over towards Mississippi itself, 3 to 5 feet. But your east side of the storm is the dirty side, 9 to 13 feet of peak storm surge forecast going in. That's a lot. That is absolutely a lot. 3 to 5 feet is a decent amount. 6 to 9 feet is a lot. 9 to 13 feet is just, that's a lot of storm surge going in. So this is a very dangerous situation. And I can't express this enough. Risk of flash flooding. Here we go. That is at least a 20% risk of flash flooding, and that extends from entry point, so Beaumont, Port Arthur, all the way over to central Louisiana, all the way up through the Arklatex, all the way up to Little Rock. And this will get higher the closer that we get. The chances will get higher the closer that we get. Right now, hurricane reconnaissance is in the actual hurricane itself. I'll click to enlarge it. Right now, they have found 992, so that's the millibars. They found it, which is down from what it is, and it's only going to continue to go down. Your pressure, when your pressure goes down, your winds go up. One last thing I like to show you, just because I am a weather nerd, I'm going to take you to weathernerds.com. Of course, where would a weather nerd take you? Be weathernerds.com. I'm going to go to the European model. I am going to go to forecast hours. Let's look at 48. And then I'm going to go in. Oh, I can't do that. Let's go GFS. Sorry. Go to GFS. I'm going to go to forecast hour. 48. Oh, it's updating. Let's go to 30. Let's see what 30 looks like. So 30, this is when it's in the central Gulf of Mexico. I'm going to go in and I'm going to get a cross section of this hurricane. And basically what I'm doing is I'm going in and I am taking the hurricane and splitting it into, there we go. So this is showing me winds, and this would be hour 30. So this would be Wednesday morning. And what I'm showing you here is the wind field. Once again, the east side of the hurricane is the stronger side. This is where you get your higher winds. This is where you get your rain, small spin-up tornadoes. The main action of a hurricane is on the east side of the hurricane. And you can see this with this cross-section split of, this is out in the middle of the Gulf. You can tell the winds right here. This is, somewhere between 90, this is in knots, so 96 to about 112, 120 knots. So you're talking about, 110, about 110 miles per hour average on this. On this side, this would be the center of the hurricane. So once again, instead of looking top down, we're looking sideways into what would be the center of the hurricane, and this is when it's out in the Gulf of Mexico. Really, for me as a weather nerd, this is really cool. It's a really cool thing that I can look at. I can also go in and look at different models, and what I always go in is I always go in and look at moisture. Wind is good to look at. Moisture is always good to look at because, and I guess let me explain this to you right quick. This 100 down to 1,000, this is the height in the atmosphere. So once again, instead of looking top down on a hurricane, I'm looking from east to west on the hurricane, and this is top of the atmosphere all the way down to near the surface. Then this is the moisture inside of a hurricane. And what I'm looking for is this is basically a cross-section cut, and I'm looking down to up in the atmosphere, and I'm looking to see if there's any dry air. That's why I look at moisture. There's a little bit over here on the right-hand side, but really not much. This dry air right here in the middle, that's because that's the center of the hurricane, and that's dry air coming out. I'm really not seeing much to inhibit. Let me see. Let me go back out. Zoom out. Let me see if I can get. I want to get to 48 hours here. Update the plot. Let me do one more. See if I can get closer. 54 hours. Update the plot. Here we go. So this is at landfall. This is the GFS. Let me get a cross section, and this would be a cross section at landfall. Let me get a better cross section here. So let's get the cross section of this. Take a look at it. All right, so a little bit of dry air. This is when you're going on land. So this would be the west side of the storm. This would be dry air up at the top, and that's normal when you're looking at a cross section of the hurricane. Once again, top layer of the atmosphere, bottom layer of the atmosphere, almost to the ground right here. Let me go in and let's take a look at winds. And when we look at the winds, look at this. Once again, this is in knots. This would be at landfall. When you know it's a major hurricane when you start seeing heavy winds on both sides. And that's what we're seeing. So once again, center of the hurricane right here. This is an east to west look, cross-section look. This would be near the surface. This will be up in the atmosphere. Over here, you're talking about knots, 120, 128, 130. It's talking about 140 mile per hour winds near the surface going in. Not anything to be played with. This Laura is going to be a major hurricane. Laura's going to go in somewhere between, in my opinion, somewhere in between Houston and Beaumont. Orange, Texas, somewhere around in there. That's my opinion. National Hurricane Center has it going in right at the Louisiana-Texas coastline. Houston, Beaumont, Cameron, Louisiana, the bell has been rung. You need to have plans in place right now for if you're asked to evacuate. I know Port Arthur's already been asked to evacuate, and people are evacuating Port Arthur. Beaumont, you may be next. Houston, do not let your guard down. I know that that you're on the you're still in the cone of uncertainty, but you're the furthest west on the cone of uncertainty. But the reason why you're in the cone of uncertainty right now by the National Hurricane Center is because there's a lot of ensembles that are still trying to push this further west. So, and even the GFS model is pushing west. So Houston, you're not out of it. You need to have plans in place too. Once again, this is going to be somewhere between a Category 2 and a Category 4, in my opinion, when it goes into land. Somewhere between Texas and somewhere between Houston and Cameron, Louisiana, in my opinion. So you need to have your plans in place. You need to be ready. You have 48 hours, 48 to 50 hours. Really, you have about 40 hours before the effects start coming in. When you start seeing rain. This is not a small tropical system coming in. This is going to be a major hurricane. Once again, shades of Ike. I hate bringing that up, but that's what we're talking about here. Shades of Ike. So do not treat this lightly. Do not think that you have all the time in the world. If you're in Houston, Beaumont, Cameron, Louisiana area, now is the time. Now is the absolute time. This is not just going to hit and dissipate. We're talking about Jasper area, could still see hurricane force winds. This is not just going to hit and dissipate. We're still talking about tropical storm as far up as Shreveport, Louisiana. So that's, greater than 34 mile per hour winds consistently. So rain, the biggest thing with this, rains, winds, storm surge. If you're along the coast, do not play around with this storm. Do not play around with this storm. I will give another update tonight. We have more models coming in. We have Air Force reconnaissance. We have the hurricane hunters in there. I hate that this is happening. As a meteorologist, somebody studying meteorology, for me it's fascinating. But as a person, man, I hate to see this, because this has bad written all over it. It really does. So take this seriously. I'll update you tonight. I'll do it first on my YouTube channel. So go search Randall's weather page, So Randall's weather page on YouTube. Search it out, like it, subscribe to it. And that's where I do my first lives. And then I update on Facebook afterwards. You can also, on Facebook, of course, it's Randall's weather page. And you can also find me on Twitter at Randall's weather page. Also, thank you all very much for joining me. I appreciate it.